Welcome to Code Creative. I'm Travis Tolson. All right, so today we're kicking off part 3 of our skeleton load. Flipping over to the screen. So basically, for those joining for the first time, we are attempting to do some skeleton loading in Service Portal, particularly for our secondary data. Dave Spangler, welcome. We're just pretty much picking up where we left off. Last time we were in a bit of a mess with some of the CSS that I was trying to do. But I actually have to give a shout out here to David De La Hoz, aka the Wizard Haas. He has apparently been working on something similar on one of his projects, and although I can't show it, NDAs, you know the deal. Basically, it works something kind of like this skeleton loading here, where you can see it's fading in and out. And when I looked at the example that he shared with me of how he was going about it, I realized that it would actually be a lot easier for me. And I actually know the CSS required to set something like that up, as opposed to the previous attempt over here that I was using with this little shine effect, where I was copying somebody else's code, and that was an absolute mess for me. Now, eventually I may go back and try and tackle this shine effect again. But for now, I'm going to temporarily throw in the towel, stop getting my face beat in, and we will try a slightly different approach on this one to see if we can get more of a fade in, fade out type effect. So the first thing that I'm going to do is strip out all of this older animation. Wait, let me keep the panel default border so I don't have to look that up again. All right. So we'll get rid of all that. And we're going to go back to what I had before with the skeleton text. And I think I had title. And the width on this one was 33.33%. And I need my background color. And I think this will give us what we had before. So what you been up to today, Dave? Waiting on previews again over here. Someday, maybe. But apparently not today. Did I lose it? Let's do a quick inspect element. And for whatever reason, there we go. Ooh, SIR training. I don't know. I actually think the security stuff is very interesting. Probably a little over my head. How's the training been going for you? Clear out the console there. All right, I think we're back to good. All right, so next up, I want to try and give that fade in, fade out effect. It's just not nice, sexy CSS builds. Well, you know, CSS builds might be good for the customer experience, but we definitely have to have the security put in place or we're all in trouble. So, about wrapped up and looking to schedule in the next couple weeks. Good to hear. Good to hear. All right, so let's see. To get this fade in, fade out effect going, let's try opacity to start with. I might actually have to switch to an RGBA. Let's see. Nope, that actually might work well. Um, and I need that keyframe animation. And I can't remember the syntax offhand, so we'll jump in here. And there we go, at keyframes. And we'll do a fade. And we'll go to opacity 100%. And then we need to do, I want to say there was a shorthand somewhere in here that we were using on the other one. You can see here that keyframes allows you to set up at different positions in the timing, 0%, 25, 50. I really like some of the things that you can do with these CSS animations. I want to say that there was an animation shorthand though. Animation duration, name. Animation iteration count. All right, let's go with this. I thought there was a shorthand. We'll just kind of go with this to start with and see how it goes. Now we need to add this to the class, not to our animation down here. And let's just see what this looks like. We'll go 0.5 seconds. Animation name is going to be fade, which is coming from our keyframe setup. And our iteration count is going to be infinite. Let's see what this gives us. That's a little too fast. But we're getting closer. So let's go back to our 3 second. Ooh. Okay. All right, so that's getting us a little bit closer, but I actually want it to pulse back and forth. So let's start with a from, go with a 50% and then a 2, and we'll keep the overall acceleration through it fairly even. So we'll start at 0%. At 50%, we'll go to 100%, and then at 2, we'll go back to 0. And we'll save that. Wait for the preview to come back up. And I see we've got a couple other folks watching. I don't know if there's a way I can see who. But feel free to work with me here. Oh, we got Crash. Crash. That was always watching. Welcome, welcome. Hey, got David Arbor here. Thanks for some of your tips last time, David. It's really helped get us a bit closer. Okay, so now our fade in, fade out is looking a little bit better. I think that's a little slower than I want. Let's try 2 seconds. Mm, 2.5 might be the sweet spot. All right, so given this is just going to blip, let's actually start the other way. Let's actually invert this and go from 100 to 0 to 100. And the reason for this is because in a lot of these cases, these skeletons may only be up for fractions of a second. And if it takes too long for the animation to pass through, we may not see anything at all. So I'm going to flip. Okay, so that's not bad. That's not bad. I feel like with a little more time, we could probably clean up this animation and make it really, really sharp. But let's see how it plays actually in real time. So I'm going to flip my little toggle here so that the skeleton only displays when the data is loading. Okay, so you saw it pop up briefly. And I wonder if I can... Now, the Wizard Haas was also saying that I could potentially throw in a timeout to simulate a slower connection. One of the things I want to try, though, here we go. So, first of all, I have flipped back to Google Chrome. I was using Microsoft Edge for a little while, and I really liked it. I actually really liked the new browser. Of course, it's based on the same Chromium engine under the hood as Chrome and a bunch of other browsers. But I really did like the new Edge. It was really solid. I got really into using it. And then today, all of a sudden, my cursor stopped behaving properly on hover with links. It stopped behaving properly when, hovering over text. You expect that text cursor. It started requiring double clicks at weird points. And honestly, over the years, I've just developed a very, very low patience for Microsoft's browsers. Sorry, guys. But so I quickly switched back to Chrome as soon as an issue came up. But with any of your Chromium browsers, you can find, and I think the other ones have it as well. I don't use Firefox or Opera as much, but you can simulate slower network connections. So for example, I can switch to a fast 3G. And if I refresh, and I'm back on my MacBook again, and I have no clue how to do this without function keys. Hooray for the touch bar. Whatever happened to the good old days of it just works? Anybody know a quick way I can refresh without closing out? Oh well, we're just going to close out. And well, no, because if I close out, I might lose my network here. Oh. Surely somebody has a way I can do this. Let's try right click. Oh, thank God. That'll work. That'll work. All right, so with the fast 3G in place, and we'll switch to slow 3G, and we'll reload. And so you see it takes a little bit longer when you're simulating the... Oh, Dave Spangler, Command R is refresh on Mac. Yeah, see, clearly I've been off of Mac for a little while. Ah, you're right. Thank you, Dave. I had to switch back from my Surface Book, which I was really reluctant to do because I loved the Surface Book 2. Being able to draw on my screen without having to switch devices, all of it. I absolutely loved the device. But there was some problems with the graphics drivers, and it was creating issues with my Adobe suite. And it just got to the point where it was a little too much of a pain in the rear end for me. So I ended up switching back to the Mac, and I'm getting back to being used to it again. And so if I load up the preview, you can see that I get a little more, I can see a little bit more of that skeleton load, and I'm actually really liking the way that looks. If I go back to full speed, there we go. I can actually just toggle the preview. And that's actually not too bad. That's not too bad. Both in terms of the slow loading and in the fast loading, I'm pretty happy with that animation overall. So next up, I'm going to start adding some instance options to this, and I'm going to start playing around with a few things. Let's see. First things up, let's add a title. Option schema, or actually, first of all, the first thing I ought to do is go back here. Let's close out some of these browsers. I'm a bit of a tab minimalist, so I hate having a bunch of tabs up. Let me go to the widget. Now, I actually need to close this because if I open up the widget form internally and have it open here, it can create conflicts where changes in the one will get reset because of the presence feature. So I'm actually going to close that one. And what was it? Simple list skeleton load. So one of the things I want to do before I go adding instance options is you can come in here and you can specify different fields that should be considered instance options. So for example, title is one that already exists. I don't have to create that one as a separate one. So we'll give title, and I don't care about those so much. CSS is an option that we can add. Not opposed to that, but not going to include it this time. Display name, glyph. Actually pretty happy so far with just the title. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that overall. We'll just enable the title one for now. The rest of them we'll create using the option schema. So we'll update that one, jump back to Studio, and kick open our widget again. All right, so at this point, I kind of need to create a demo page. So let's do a few things here. First of all, oh yeah, that never works. Let's do this. We'll just create a new one. Code Creative Widgets Demo Portal. Give it the CC demo. Give it the landing page. Login. KB. And basically, I'm just building out this base portal template. And catalog homepage is going to be SC home. SC home. Main menu. I can't remember what the main menu is. SP header menu. And we'll stick with the Lajala theme for now. And I will leave everything else fairly default, at least for now. We can always play with it more later. And then we'll create a page. And I'm just going to call this one my test page. CC test. And we'll submit that one, leave that one alone. All right. Dev, and we'll go to our CC demo. And let's go back and on our portal record, let's make that CC test our home. Spare me having to remember a larger URL or bookmark it. All right, here we go. All right, so now I can go to my page And where are you, CC test? I need to get something on this page so I can use all the fancy hotkeys. Open in Designer. Every time I do this stuff, all I can think is, I know that there are people out there watching at now or in the future that are sitting there thinking to themselves, doesn't he know he could just do this? Doesn't he know he could just do that? And the answer is, even if I knew, I probably still wouldn't do it. I always take the slow, hard route. It's just who I am. Let's see. It's not just me. We all do it. Thank goodness. That's good to hear. That's actually terrible. That's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to do at all. You know what? Let's just get rid of this whole row. Because I want to do a few of these. I don't just want to do one. I want to do a few of these. Let's go 3 by... No, let's not go 3 across or 4 across. Let's go 3 across. I like my magic number 3. Simple list skeleton load. We'll add a couple of these so we can configure each one a little bit differently. There we go. We'll go 6 of them. That feels good. All right. So now I can come back over here. All right. Now I've got my test page set up. And now I can do my control right click and get around at least a little bit quicker. All right. Hey, we're actually making halfway decent time today. Past couple times I've done this, I've been at the 50-minute mark and crying because I only managed to make it but a couple steps. Now I've actually got a simple list. Welcome back, in-house designer.
Hi.
She was off helping child number 1 with...
I'm designing a science fair project.
Designing a science fair project. They're saying hi.
Hello.
Are you still helping with the science project?
I am, but I can have the browser window open so I can like judge you and stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're going to follow along and crucify me in chat. Got it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Let's see. Is it options or is it c.options? I think it's c.options. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Maybe it breaks. Maybe it doesn't. Die by chat? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's good to know that I've always got support at home. That is true love. Simple list. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so that's actually working fairly well. So c.options title or simple list. Actually, I don't like that. So one of the things that's a pet peeve for me is I try to avoid putting logic in my HTML templates at all. I like to be able to read the client script and have a full understanding of what's going on. So we're going to come in here and I'm going to create an init function. And with a lot of this, you'll notice that if you ever look at my actual production code for most of the stuff that goes into customer instances, it's nowhere near as refined during the process as some of the stuff that I'm doing here. I have more time here, so I can try to enforce all of my good coding practices. In the heat of the moment in customer instances, and probably shouldn't be admitting this, but it's nowhere near as good during the process. And I always try to go back and clean it up and make it a little bit better. Doesn't always work out that way. Trying to build better habits, but we get what we get sometimes. So let's go c dot title is equal to c dot options dot title, and we'll just do simple list for now. So there's our default value, and then I should be able to change this to just c dot title, save it. Perfect. So now I got simple list over here. Let's see, next up, let's add some options to our function over here. I feel like I'm missing something here. Does the simple list widget actually point to a different instance option table? I think it does. It does. Okay, so you can see here that the one that I have developed initially, the data table is on the SP instance table, whereas simple list is on SP instance vlist. Now, fortunately, I can change this after the fact. And that's why I was missing some of the fields I was expecting. If I go to SP instance vlist, now I've got title, and I should have a few others of interest. Okay, here we go. So I can do display field. I can do filter. We can add, let's see, maximum entries, order, or not order, order by. Where'd it go? Order direction, protection policy, roles. Don't care about those so much, at least not now anyway. Table. Ah. Let's see. And yeah, we'll add fields. All right, so now let's order these. We'll put title first. We'll put filter second. We'll put go printer go.
Sorry.
That's fine. I don't care. That's the beauty of these live streams is
You don't care.
I don't care as much. It's just me doing my thing. Trying to build well sculpted videos and doing the video editing and editing the audio and being in a room where the audio is actually decent, which by the way is the bottom of my closet, is the best place in the house for perfect audio. All of that is really, really challenging and frankly really frustrating sometimes. So, the whole thing with Code Creative Live was that there's all these times that I'm sitting here doing stuff at the computer and nobody gets to see any of it because frankly, it's a hot mess. So, by sharing the live stream, I don't have to worry about the terrible audio. I don't have to worry about, the frustrating pieces, and I can basically just wing it, share some information, share what I'm learning as I go. And then later on, I can go record in the bottom of my closet and get the audio just right and prepare a perfect video showing in, 2.5 minutes. This is how you set up skeleton loading in Service Portal. And meanwhile, you guys get to see all of the work and figuring out and my thought process, which is a terrible place to be, but, here you guys are. In the closet radio. Yeah, Crash. That is kind of how some of my yeah, that's how the edited videos are. In the closet radio. And I guess that makes this out of the closet radio. Maximum entries, fields. All right, so we'll go display fields, display fields. No, wait. Order by. And yes, I really am this picky about where each of these fields go and the sequence and the order. Um, so here's the line of thinking. Start with a title. Then we have our query components, table for the query, the filter for the query, what we're ordering by, and the order direction. So this is basically how I would set up my glide record. Then our set limit, followed by the actual fields that we're using. So these would be within the while loop. So I'm actually setting up my options in roughly the same order as the query, which also is somewhat intuitive from an admin's perspective. Okay, now the problem here is that now that I've switched my data table, Jace, welcome. Glad to have you, man. I got lost. Oh, right. So the data table, because I've switched it from the base SP instance to the SP instance vlist, all of these have to get trashed. Won't take me too long. No, Apple, I do not want to look it up in the thesaurus, but thank you for helping. Where I actually want to go is to the page designer, and we're going to scrap all of these instances. Yes, I do. And that one, and that one, and that one. I am 100% positive. Please stop asking me. All right. And we'll add our skeleton loaders back again. All right, so this is recreating those instances, but instead putting them on the appropriate child table on the, what was it, SP instance vlist. Yeah, Jace, I did get to see the empty state and loading stuff that you linked to. So it really, I really felt like a lot of it was pretty much in line with what we were doing. We did end up changing up, and let me go ahead and toggle this real quick. One thing we ended up changing up was we ditched the shine animation that we were doing. Yeah, that one was the old one. I want to say that the last time I was talking to Nathan, he was saying that there was a newer version of it that's going to be coming out that coincides with the workspaces and the new UX framework. So I think there's a new one out, but I don't know if it's public or not. Still trying to get some information on that one. But one of the things that we did do here was we changed from the shine going across, which was some really complex CSS, and we switched it up to a much more simplistic animation using an opacity fade. And that was one that I actually knew how to do offhand, but that idea came courtesy of David De La Hose, aka Wizard Haas. So that's what we ended up changing since the last time you were with us, Jace. And now I'm going through and adding a bunch of instance options and making this thing configurable. So now I can come in here and we got options. Actually, wait a second. Wizard Haas. Let's see. Do I want to do this in line? Um, no, I kind of don't. Normalize options. All right, so what I'm going to do here is create this normalize options function. And basically, I'm going to use this as a way of setting up our default options and stuff like that. So for example, table is going to be options.table or incident. And I know that, if I go to my options schema, I know that you can set up default values in your options schema, and there's a number of things you can do around that. I have not had good luck with that, and I don't know if it's just some of the versions I've worked in, if it wasn't quite optimal in certain versions, or if it's still an issue. I'm not really sure because I completely abandoned using the default value for instance options. I always set it up in script now, just because it makes me feel a whole lot more confident in what the result is going to be. So table query is going to be options.filter or active equal to true. I think is what, yeah, active equal to true is what we're using right now. Then let's go with, what was the other one? And as I said before, I may get into a little bit of trouble with opening this one up in two places at once if I'm not careful. Yeah, exactly, Jace. I know what it's going to do when I control it. Right now, I'm looking for the display. What is it? Display value or display value field or something along those lines. Limit is one of them. There's a couple fields down here that I had set. What were they? Ah, heartbreak. What happened to all my work? No. Ah. All right, so we might have to do some of this again. So that is the exact thing that I was trying to avoid. And the last time that I went in and edited this widget here, I forgot to close this right here. So I'm going to save what I've got real quick. And I'm going to close this editor. That's okay, Chase, because I actually have to go back and do a couple of these steps all over again because I had the widget form open here and I had it open in the widget editor. And when you have them open in both, some of the autosave presence type stuff kicks in and it ends up overwriting. So this is now the wrong instance option. I need to set it back to sp instance vlist. And then we need to add title. And what were some of these other ones? It was table and then filter. And then it's an opportunity to share. Yeah, save early and save often. Or in this case, if you have the same file open in two places, A, don't, and B, if you do, close one of them before you save. Only save from one of them. Right. MHZ prayer. You're absolutely right. When the widget editor is open, it has all the dependencies. So you can edit the Angular providers, you can edit templates, you can edit all sorts of different things that are connected, not just the widget record itself. So when you save it in that editor, it saves all of them. And if you're not careful, what happens is um, if I open up this form while the Matt H from SN Devs, that's who MHZ is. How's it going, Matt? Welcome. So as I was saying, what happens, to piggyback on what Matt was saying in chat, what happens is when you have the editor open, the other UI, um, the it ends up connecting via presence to the backend. And so anything that you save in that editor, if you're not careful, first of all, it does overwrite this form when it's closed. But even if this form is open, if you're not paying attention, you'll get the little presence icons that pop up and it'll overwrite. And I've had this happen to me quite a few times where I was not being careful, I was not paying attention, and I had both of them open. Um, I wish that some of these options were a little more accessible from the other editor so that I didn't run into these issues, but such is life. Um, Matt, if you're aware of anything that I may be missing where maybe it is available there, or anybody else in the chat, by all means, share. Again, I have a tendency to take the stubborn approach a lot of the time. So filter, I want maximum entries. I want the order by, order direction. And order by, order direction, maximum entries. And then we wanted, what were the other ones? Display field. This is one of the ones I was looking for. Display field. And then we want fields. Display name, glyph. And I think that's what we went with before. Okay, so now I'm going to update. Chase is saying tags could be interesting. What are you thinking on that one, Jace? What are you thinking for the use on tags? Got some lag here on my side, I think. Oh, could not save record because of a compile error. Missing, because my stuff is broken over here. All right, there we go. Instance of simple list. Okay, there we go. A micro button thing. I think I might need a picture, Jace. Okay, I think we're set on that now. But if I go back to widget instances, simple list skeleton load. Oh, good. They did end up creating on the right table. They did end up creating on the instance of simple list. So that's positive. I don't have to go back and redo those. So that's good. One second, getting pinged by a teammate. Yeah, 4 p.m. will work. Gonna have to rewatch to understand the recreating instances. Yeah, so basically all it comes down to is there's different instance classes. You've got the instance of simple list. You've got, let's just go ahead and group by and get rid of that. Okay, let's try that again. So we've got these different instance types. You've got the plain old instance, instance of carousel, instance with link, instance with menu. And this is all just a way of basically providing some default instance options is really what it comes down to. It standardizes it for that particular type of widget. And also for carousel and stuff like that, it has associated related lists with it. And basically, once you have, through the drag and drop editor, added a widget to, no, this one's actually not a new instance type, Jace. I'm actually using an existing one, but I originally created it on the, I originally created this simple list as a base instance, and I went back and changed it to an instance of a simple list after I had already done drag and drop to add some of those, add that widget, add a few instances of that widget. So I had to make sure that they were created on the correct table. All right, so now I should be able to, at this point, go back to opening this up. Okay. Move you over a bit. Okay, so now let's see. All right, so it was table query. I'm going to call this one title. And yeah, I think we're going to end up moving a lot of this over, or I think I'm going to end up moving this over to server side. So options dot title or that simple list. And so that should get rid of the need for that, I think. We'll double check a few things before I move forward with that, because we need to make sure that that is actually set for okay. So table query title. Let's move title up to the top so it's a little less confusing. Table query. Item title. Let's camel case that. And options dot, that was display field, I think, or number, I think is what, yeah, number is what we went with. And item description. Actually, let's add field to this so it's a little more clear. Item description field is going to be, for starters, we'll just say short description. And eventually we'll go back and we'll add an instance option for that one. Hey, how's it going, Andrew? We had Andrew jump in, says he can't hang, but thought he'd say hi. Let's see, where are we at? Query, item field, description field. We'll go meta fields is going to be options dot I think that one was called fields, or we've currently got a assigned to, and I think that's going to be a comma separated one. And we're going to go with order by options dot order by or sys updated on, I think is the name of that field. Order by direction options dot order by direction, I think is the name of that one, or I don't know how that one's actually stored. We'll have to figure that one out. All right, and limit. I think it was called maximum items or something like that. Options dot. So clearly there's a couple of these I'm going to have to go back and look up exactly what it is, and we'll set the limit initially to 5. Okay. I think that covers all the major ones. So data is loading. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to keep this real simple for now and say normalize options. And I'll add an ops variable to the get list items, and we'll pass that here. And you might be wondering, why not just scope a variable up top here? Why not just put a var opt up here? And this goes back to one of the reasons why I really like having a solid, parsing my inputs, build up the functions, and then my data outputs down at the bottom, is it helps to encourage a behavior of injecting my dependencies as opposed to relying on what amounts to roughly a global variable. Basically, this function is now slightly closer to, actually it may actually be a pure function at this point. I can essentially copy this function out, move it to a script include, and not worry about the context that the function's in. As long as I pass my options in, I'm good to go. So minimizing those dependencies helps make some of these functions a little bit more mobile. And because code refactoring is something that happens all the time, I do try to prepare for that event. So at this point, I should now be able to go ops.table and ops.maximum items. And ops.query. And then we query. And then we're going to do a get value on opt.item title field. And we'll do the same for this one. And then our short description should be the item description field. And in order to keep our naming convention consistent, I'm going to change my short description back to description, which means I have to change it over here as well. And now I'm running a little bit over today, but I really, really, really want to finish this last bit before I'm done. But we will be signing off here shortly. Copy, paste that to there. What are we missing? We're missing the order by. And let's switch up my ordering here to try and keep this stuff consistent. And gr dot order by. Ooh, okay, so we actually have to do an if statement here because there's two separate functions. So if options dot order blah 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 blah. What are you doing, blah blah? Yo, my youngest, 9 months old, is in his walker right now. I figured somebody was holding him. No, he has come running down the hallway to come visit Dad at work. What's up, little buddy? Yeah, Jace, I've heard your little ones in the background too. Ain't it great? Once upon a time, my oldest, who's no longer behind me, so he can't get too embarrassed about this one, other than the fact that it's now going to be on the internet. But when he was younger, during a client call, we had video on, and he, a toddler, I want to say he was like 2 or 3 at the time, ran butt naked behind me in the video in the middle of the client meeting. I quickly cited technical difficulties and shut the video stream down. Nobody acknowledged that it happened, but I'm not convinced that it did happen. Mark Scott gives his daughter a camera. You can view them side. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
You want to give the baby a camera?
I don't have a camera set up for the record yet.
Oh, I'm talking about not right now.
Oh, yeah, we could get the baby a camera. We'll set him up.
We'll sit there and run its mouth the whole time.
Jay says, I'm sure they noticed. They were smiling on the inside. Yeah, clearly the oldest won't be joining me on this stream now. All right, let's see. So order by, and that's going to be opt dot order by, and gr dot order by descending is going to be opt dot order by. And what I'm missing is if direction is equal to, and I want to say it's going to be all capitals, but I can't remember. So let's go with this. And there's definitely a 0% chance that they didn't notice. Thanks, Dave. Save. I don't know if that's good. Hey, it's still functional minus the title. Let's see here. So what we need is c.opt.title. Save it. And oh, it's under c.data.opt. There we go. Okay, so now at this point, and you may notice I've completely neglected meta at this point, and I'm perfectly happy to do so right now, mostly because I don't feel like dealing with arrays right now. But to go ahead and finish this one up, let's do a reload, and we'll add, actually, wait a second. I wanted to do one more thing before I close this up. It'll have to be a quick dinner tonight. Something that cooks quickly. You don't even eat the dinner I cook. Oh, blah, 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 back at you too. I love you. Let's see. Where was it? Oh, right. I wanted to do a and c.data.opt show skeleton. Actually, that might not work. Yeah, that might not work. We'll revisit that one again. All right, let's do this. Oops, too much. Here's what we're going to do. I am going to I'm going to duplicate the entire panel. And what we're going to end up doing is, instead of duplicating the UL, and instead of duplicating that one, all right, let's move the ngIf down to the panel level. If c.data is loading and c.data.opt. Jay says, I was messing around with OBS last night to get my stuff set up because I wanted to be like the cool people. If you want, I can share my OBS settings. It has chat and cam boxes. Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be helpful, Jace. I just recently switched from having it set up on my MacBook screen to my external monitor that I set up, and I flipped my screen so that I could go with the 16:9 aspect ratio to clean up some of the image issues I had with the last couple ones. Show skeleton. Okay, and if c.data is loading, so we need to get rid of this one. And if not loading needs to go up to the panel level. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm separating the panel for the final data and the panel with the skeleton data so that I can enable showing the skeleton as an option. So what we're going to do here is show skeleton is going to be options.show skeleton, or, well, this probably won't work because of undefined and magical stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see. Well, no, because if it's false, then it would become true. So we actually have to leave that one alone. Okay. Edit option schema. Show skeleton is a Boolean default value. Will it work? I don't know. And we'll put this one under presentation. Hey, it did work. Okay, so the default option this time around did appear to work. So what this is going to enable us to do is to choose whether or not we want to show the skeleton. So we don't actually have to use a different widget. We can just use the exact same widget regardless. And I'm going to add one more. Disable async. Options.disable async. And add a new one to disable async. And that's going to be a Boolean. And the default value is going to be false. And we'll put this one under behavior. Yeah, we'll stick that one under behavior. All right. Now, the reason I set this up is so that I can turn around if input or opt.disable async, and then if c.data.opt.disable Oh yeah, in-house designer can totally make it look better. We're gonna bring her. We're gonna bring her in a future episode. We'll even mic her up, um, and we'll get her to make this look real sharp. I mean, I'll try, but you know, amateurs, we do our part. You know. So if not disable async, all right. So what the net result of what I just did should be is I've added a flag that will allow us to disable the async. In other words, it'll load it the first time through, as opposed to loading it the second time, as opposed to loading it asynchronously. And do an episode setting up OBS. Um, did not work as intended. If input and options dot or options dot disable async. Hmm. Let's see. c.data.ops.disable async. Not loading. If is loading. Hmm. Why does what is what?
Why does it disappear?
What does what disappear?
The thing.
Why doesn't the skeleton disappear?
No, why does it disappear? Like it blinks.
Oh, because it's an animation.
Oh.
Server JavaScript error ops is not defined. Why is ops not defined?
Because you didn't define it.
Oh, good call. Line number 64. Data.ops.
See, you didn't define it. I was right.
You were right, I didn't define it. Disable async. Let's re-enable that. Okay, so now let's go play with some options and kind of see what worked. First, let's reload just to make sure. All right, so instance options. I'm going to disable async. That is the best kind of answer. Instance options. And we'll disable async. Now, let's not show skeleton on those disable asyncs. Nah, didn't seem to work. It's still showing the skeleton. So we'll have to explore that one next time. Let's test some of the other instance options. Actually, let's go with requests, just so we're changing it to something else. Requested items, filter, we'll keep active as true. And display field. Well, no, that would be a terrible one to use. Let's go with that one, and let's go with item. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong one. Presentation, title, maximum entries 5. Oh, I didn't add that field, did I? Let's go back and add that field real quick. And that one was we didn't add that one at all yet. Okay, so description field. I know, I'm hurrying up. I'm getting yelled at by the youngest. We'll go with data on that one. I think that's data related. Default value, short description. And then I need to update this to options dot description field or okay. Reload. Yeah, Jace, the youngest does know that without without reminders, I might be on all night. Darn kids. All right, so description field, we'll change to item. All right. Now, of course, right now we don't have any link behavior, so we'll have to change that eventually. Instance options, title is requested items, maximum entries is 5. There we go, requested items. We're showing requested items. All right, so this widget's well on its way to actually being something, actually being a thing. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight and go try to find a quick way to whip up some dinner before the hungry natives sacrifice me to their gods. So yeah, thanks a lot everybody for joining. Hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a good one.